Either way, I'd like you to do a little check. I'd like you to stand in a good space, as good a space as you can find in your room. Or if you can't stand, sit down and just spread your arms out just to make sure that you're not going to knock anything. There's nothing in your way, just so that we can be a little bit safe. Fantastic. Good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by standing with our feet about shoulder width apart. So have a quick look down at your feet and then look back up again, just to make sure that they're about shoulder width apart. And then I'm going to get you to check again because I want your toes to be pointing forward so your feet are parallel. Yeah. Now, often people look at their toes and they think, oh yes, my feet are parallel, but actually they're standing with their, I don't know if you can see there on me, maybe I'll move back a bit. They're standing with their feet out like that. So just to account for any human error, turn the toes in slightly, as if you are skiing, I suppose. Great. And then bring the weight forwards a little bit so that your weight is centered on the balls of your feet. So then, if you're sat down, by the way, so just stay there if you're standing up, but if you sat down, then that just means bring the weight forward a little bit so that it comes into the feet. Yeah, so even when you're sat down, you're going to get some therapeutic benefit from just sitting forwards a little bit, bringing the weight into the feet, because you want to try to take some of the weight off the sit bone, put it into the feet. For those of us that are standing, we're going to be a little bit more precise and have the weight centered on the balls of the feet. And then use the balls of the feet as anchor points so that you can lift the toes up off the floor a little bit and then stretch them. You can still do this if you sat down. You can still lift the toes up and stretch them. It's not a vigorous stretch. It's just trying to make them longer. And actually, you don't even have to succeed or feel like you're succeeding. You've just got to try. That's the main thing. So you're just trying to get this sort of lengthening feeling in the toes. Once you've got that, then place them back down again, starting with the big toes and then going all the way around to the little toes. And then just follow that through by making sure that you've got the edges of the feet and the heels in connection with the ground. You've got a good connection to all the parts of the foot that need to be in connection. And those parts that shouldn't be aren't. That's the key. So we have this structure in the feet, and we want to try and keep this structure in the feet because we want to keep connected to the ground. We want to have a good connection to the ground. And then we're going to soften the ankles, soften the knees, and soften the hips. And what I mean by that is we're going to try and relax the muscles a little bit in the legs so that the joints will tend to bend slightly, but we're not physically bending the legs, we're just relaxing them. And at the same time, I'd like you to stretch the spine. How do we do that? Well, you just try and make the top of your head touch the ceiling. And that will cause all of the muscles around the spinal column to engage to try to make it longer. Now that you've done that, see if you can soften the legs a little bit more, because what will happen then is it will cause gravity to start pulling on the pelvis. Why do we want to do that? Because we want to stretch open the spine a little bit. To aid that a little bit more, see if you can bring the pelvis back. So I like to do it like this. You can do it like this if you want to. Sort of just point your fingers into your hip joints and push them backwards a little bit, but try and keep your head where it is. So essentially what happens is, allow me to demonstrate this way, as I push backwards, my bum starts to stick out a bit, or you will feel like your bum's sticking out, but honestly, I promise you it's not really. But you're keeping your weight centered on the balls of the feet. So you end up with a slight lean in the upper part of the body. The arms are relaxed like a pair of curtains. And the shoulders are soft. So because your arms are relaxed and because you're leaning slightly forwards from the hips. Gosh, what's that? Because of that, your hands are just a little bit in front of your hips. Okay, and then a final thing to think about. See if you can stretch open the front of your spine. So see if you can just make it unfurl a little bit. That'll have the effect of bringing the head back on top of the shoulders where it should be, and will improve your balance considerably. That's great. Okay, now we have to counterbalance that though, you see, because what happens is that's a great stretch at the front of the spine, but now it's causing the chest to lift a little bit, and maybe the head is tilting a little bit too high. So try and keep the spine where it is, and then just relax all the flesh, particularly around the sternum, so that it kind of dribbles down towards the belly. That's better. Great. So holding that posture, you've got a posture and you've got a stance. Who can tell me what this stance is called? I saw your lips move, Martin, that you've been muted. Wu Ji. So this stance is Wu Ji stance, or Wu Ji San Swang. Wu Ji means empty or nothing or beginning, or something like that. Now, we're going to add some movement to this. We're not just going to stand here all day, although I must stress that I think that this is a really therapeutic stance. Once you've gone through the minutiae of all those details, it's actually quite a therapeutic stance because it's unusual to be able to stand up and stretch your spine. You normally have to lie down to do it. It's unusual to be able to sit down and stretch your spine, but if you're sat forwards in the chair, then what happens, you see, is you're moving the center of gravity or the center of weight out of the small of the back and bringing it forwards into the abs. So the abs can take the weight and the spine is free to start to stretch a bit more. But we want to do some movement as well. So holding this stance and posture. Don't worry, Rosemary, I'll come to you with some exercises similar to do with this. I'd like to open and close alternate hips. Yeah, so we're pivoting the pelvis. It must be the pelvis that does the work. Yeah, so it's not the shoulders. It's not the shoulders. It's the pelvis. So if you can't move your pelvis, you know, maybe you've got a bit of arthritis or poorly hip or something like that. If you can't move the pelvis, then nothing else should be moving. If it is, then even though all we're doing is standing here, apparently waving our arms around, we're doing a lot more than that though, aren't we? We know that. We're doing Tai Chi because the movement is originating in the belly, in the pelvic area. Of course, your shoulders are going to move because your pelvis is moving. Okay, so folks that are standing up, carry on doing that, please. I'm just going to do a little thing to show Rosemary what to do.
I was following you.
So hopefully you can see me sat there in the distance.
Yep.
If you sit forward in the chair,
yep.
Okay, and you can just rest the hands on the legs if you want to, or you can just let them dangle if you want to. I think personally I prefer having the hands on the sort of near the knees. Because you're leaning forwards from the hips, yeah, but you've got a straight spine, you want to be stretching the spine. You can just do this rotation. So what you're trying to do is open one hip and close the other. So it's not that, it's more like this. I don't know if that makes sense, if you can see the difference. And you want to go to both sides. And you just want to take it gently. Yeah, it's just a gentle exercise to try to open and close alternate hips. So when the one hip is opening, the other hip is closing.
Okay, thank you.
So keep going with that. And if you can put your concentration into your hips, all of you, if you can put your concentration into your hips when you're doing this, so much the better. So what we're doing, you see, is, well, there's a number of ways we can approach the explanation for this. What we're doing is we're trying to create space and movement in joints. First of all, we did those really important joints that we call our spine. And now we're working on the hip joints as well. So sort of like two sets there of really important joints in the sense of they do a lot of work for us throughout the day. They take weight, they do a lot of work, physical work. So we want to get them lubed up a bit and open. If you want to, but not if you're sat down, because it doesn't work that way, I'm afraid, if you're sat down. When you're standing up, if you want to, you can speed up a bit. Just take it steady. Make sure you keep your knees pointing in the same directions as your toes. Don't let the knee turn in. I'm exaggerating a bit, but just check on that. What happens, you see, is when the knee turns in, first of all, it prevents the hip from opening, but also it puts a sideways force onto the knee, which is not natural and can cause damage to the knee joint. And I don't want you to go away worse off than you were when you came. You want to go away, you need to go away better. Okay. The other way to approach the explanation of this is using yin and yang. So you may or may not be aware that yin and yang has this association with Tai Chi because it's called Tai Chi philosophy, yeah? And we can apply it to this. So in our legs, because our legs are soft, we have yin. So we can describe our legs as being yin. And then in the upper body, because we're stretching the spine, we have yang. We also have yin and yang happening in the pelvis, in the hips, and it's changing. So we have this idea of yin and yang constantly changing, and that's certainly what's happening in the hips. They're opening and closing alternately. So if you think about the yin yang symbol, then it kind of has this sort of same sort of feel as what we're doing now with the pelvis and the hips. What's next? So let's just pause a moment, and when you stop, just check in to make sure that you think, at least, you believe that you're still standing in this special stance, this Wu Ji stance, Wu Ji. Typical things to check in on: make sure you've got a feeling of a stretch in the spine, particularly the neck. That's why I'm pointing at the neck. So make sure it feels like it's stretching. Make sure it feels like your legs are soft. So the next set of joints, important joints, are the shoulders, yeah, because they do a lot of work for us as well. So we're going to carry on stretching the spine. We're going to carry on working the hips, and we're going to do some work on the shoulders as well. What I'd like you to do, if you can, is just take a gentle in-breath and then see if you can touch the ceiling with the tips of your fingers. You don't have to touch the ceiling, by the way. Probably you're best not to, because you like to leave dirty fingerprints, which is always a bit of a pain to get rid of. If your fingertips do touch the ceiling, incidentally, just soften the legs a bit more so that you've got a bit more height up there. But you're still trying to get the arms up there, okay? Now what we're going to do is the same as we were doing before with the hips, but we're also going to rotate the shoulder joints in opposite directions and keeping this gentle stretch through the arms. So looking a lot like this. Okay, so this is a bit tricky for people to get, particularly the first time. So let me just reassure you that it doesn't matter if you're not, or you don't think you're getting it right. Really, all that matters is that you've got this gentle elongation in the arms. You're just gently stretching open the arms, and you're gently rotating the shoulder joints. Everything else is gravy. But you will get that sense of achievement when you finally get it. So ideally, you want to be facing sideways when the arms are horizontal and forwards when the arms are vertical. Keep going. If you ever see me looking to the side, by the way, it's because I've got you up on my telly, which is to the side of me. So I'm just looking to see how you guys are doing. Very nice. I can see you all getting some good movements in there. That's the main thing. So the next time you find yourself facing forward with your fingers pointing down towards the ground, just pause for a moment. Just pause. Check that you're you're still standing in Wuji-ish, apart from the hands and the arms. If it feels like anything needs adjusting, just adjust it. And now I'm going to load you up a little bit more with something else and ask you to go in the opposite direction to the one that you were just going in. Yeah. And if you can't remember what direction you were going in, doesn't matter, just go in the direction. So part of this exercise is about letting go a little bit and just trusting your body to do what it needs to do. And of course, not taking it too seriously, yeah? A lot of our stress in our lives perhaps comes from taking ourselves too seriously. Beating themselves up when the body doesn't do what you want it to do. Okay, and now we're just going to pause and we're going to do another exercise that we do in between exercises called shaking out. So again, we're just standing in this Wuji stance. Round the shoulders forwards, so the arms cross in front of the midline. Rosemary, I'll show you what to do in a moment, unless you can remember from last week. And then, just using the shoulder joints, try and shake out the hands. Yeah, so you're sort of creating ripples down the arms. And it's sort of flicking out the ends of your fingers. Nothing too vigorous though, yeah? We don't want to cause any strains. So that exercise that we just did may have caused some weird sensations in the tips of your fingers, perhaps, may not. And this shakeout will kind of just cause those to subside a bit for you. Lovely. Now, find something in your room that is firmly attached to the ground or to the floor, and just use it as a touch point. So you're not leaning on it, but it's just there for security in case you go. And stand with the feet together, upright, and then pick a foot, any foot, because we're going to do both of them eventually anyway, and just lift it up 1/2 inch off the ground, move it forwards a foot length, and then tilt the foot at the heel, so that you're trying to point the toes up towards the ceiling and push the heel down towards the ground, but the heel is still slightly off the ground. So, and also you're stretching therefore out the back of the leg and the bum, down the back of the leg, through the back of the knee, right way through to the heel into the ground. So you've kind of got this, what I would call a line of stretch. You've got a line of stretch coming from your bum going into the ground, like a guy line, I suppose. Also, try elongating the toes a little bit by doing this. And of course, for the icing on the cake, shake the leg up and down whilst it's stretching. That bit is the icing. It doesn't matter too much if you can't get the shake. It's the stretch that's the most important bit for this one. But we still call it shaking out. And then the same on the other side. So put your feet back together again, and then this time lift the other foot off the floor a little bit. Move it forwards a foot length. Tilt it at the heel so the toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. And then stretch the toes a little bit and stretch down the back of the leg. So from the bum, right the way down the back of the knee, through to the heel. Nice good stretch. And then again, jiggle that one a bit. So you're kind of shaking up and down out of the hip joint. If you manage to get this shake, you might notice that you're getting a bit of vibration coming up into the pelvic cavity, which is really good. It sort of massages the lower organs a little bit as well, which is always a bonus. Is everybody okay? Rosemary, I forgot to show you what you're doing.
Don't worry, I was copying you.
So yeah, basically it's copying me, but it's, you kind of just put your hands between like that and then shake. So you still need to make sure that you've got some of your weight in your feet, so you're leaning forwards a little bit, but obviously not putting any strain on the back. Yeah. And with the feet, you're shaking out the feet, you just stretch the foot out, stretch the leg out, sorry.
Yeah, I did that.
And then again, you can still stretch the toes and wriggle them a little bit. You can't shake it really, but never mind. Is everybody okay? Thumbs up if you are, thumbs down if you're not. Fantastic. What should we do now? We're going to do another arm exercise because we've got the shoulders moving now. And what I'm going to do, well, first of all, what I'm going to do is show you how you stand, and then I'm going to come in close to the camera to show you what we're doing with our hands and arms. Okay, so it's almost the same as Wu Ji. Yes, it's this stance where we're soft legs, weights in the ball of the feet. We've got a good strong structure in the feet. We're stretching the spine. You can feel gravity pulling the pelvis down, so it's opening the lower part of the spine. We're leaning forwards from the hips, heads on top of the shoulders. You're just going to sink just a little bit deeper, so you soften the legs a little bit more. And then we have this spiral stretch, if you like, or we try to put our arms into spirals, like corkscrews going in opposite directions, so that the hands are kind of sat in front of the hip joints, or just a bit above the hip joints. The elbows are kind of pointing out to the sides, and the shoulders, you're trying to move them across a little bit to the sides. So I'm just going to come in closer to show you what you're doing with your hands. So my hands are too high now, but I need to lift them up high so you can see them. They should be down here in front of my hips, but you can't see them down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in pairs, so that's not picking a partner, but pairs of fingers, we're going to stretch them at the same time as unfurling this stretch down the arms, yeah? So there's this rotation going on in the hand. I'll just show you the one hand. So the hand starts there and it rotates, yeah? But also, the hand moves across to the side. So it rotates and moves across to the side. And whichever pair of digits are pointing forwards, you want to focus on them and try and make them longer. So it's just a gentle elongation, starting with the little fingers, then the ring fingers, then the middle fingers, and the forefingers. And then there's a bit of a gap, of course, because there is a gap, until we get to the thumbs. And then we're just sending the thumbs forwards. Let me come this side so you can see. You're just sending the thumbs forwards, 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 at the same time as rotating the forearm so that you're turning the hand to point the fingers into the ground. So you're opening this joint particularly. The thumb needs to go forwards, not up. Which for me, when I started doing this, was quite tricky because I've got double jointed thumbs and they always used to be curling up like that. But you want to try to get it forwards. That way you're really working on the thumb joints. So if any of you are fans of acupuncture, acupressure, then we're working what's known as the lung meridian that runs through the thumb. And of course, we're going to be doing some work on the lungs at the same time. So it's joining up the dots. Okay, let me show you that in full. You can try and work along with me first of all, or you can just watch carefully to see what's going on. So I'm just going to take a deep breath. And then on that slow, long out breath, I start rotating the hands and I'm stretching my little fingers now, and then my ring fingers, then my middle fingers, then my forefingers, then my thumbs. And I'm sending the thumbs forward. It's almost like somebody's got hold of my thumbs and they're pulling them away from me, but they won't be able to go just forwards because they're attached to my arms, which are attached to my shoulders. So instead, they're going to rise up. So I let them rise up, but I'm still actually sending forwards rather than lifting them up. My shoulders, I'm trying to keep soft. So I'm not lifting my arms up with my shoulders, I'm keeping my shoulders down. That's the most complicated part of the exercise. We can start again and I'll talk you through the rest of it as we go, but that's the starting point. Rosemary, you should be fine to just do this from sitting down, but you might need to have the hands a little bit further apart to make some space for your legs.
Okay.
Okay, you're all ready? Yeah, so the palms are facing the ground, facing the floor at the moment. Little in-breath, and then stretching the little fingers, then the ring fingers, then the middle fingers, then the forefingers, and then the thumbs, sending the thumbs forwards, rotating the forearms so that when we get to about here, the palms are facing each other, the fingers are pointing into the ground. Nice, gentle, soft in-breath, keeping the shoulders soft, and the hands rise up until they get to about level with your shoulders, no higher than that. And then we pause for a moment and just rotate the arms and the shoulder joints so that you're turning the palms again so that they face the floor. And then a little stretch in the wrist joints so that the palms are a little bit facing forwards as well. And then at the top of an in-breath, on the exhale, just pushing the hands down, nothing else, just the hands, and pushing the head up. So the top of the head is pushing up, gentle pushing, yeah, nothing too vigorous. Now I know a lot of you tend to get tremors, particularly in the hands, the arms, and this may actually feel like it's making them worse. If you think that it is, then just give it a rest on the side that it's happening on and see if you can carry on the other side. Otherwise, you might want to try and work through it. Your choice. See how it goes. Again, little fingers stretching forwards, ring fingers stretching forwards, middle fingers stretching forwards, forefingers stretching forwards, thumbs stretching forwards. Breathing in as the hands rise up. If you can, hold your breath while you rotate your arms so that the hands are facing the floor, a little bit away from you, and then breathing out gently, lifting the pelvic floor up as you breathe out and push down and push the head up. Ooh. And again, in breath, and then a soft, gentle out breath through the little fingers, ring fingers, middle fingers, forefingers, thumbs. Rotating the arms so that palms are facing each other, still sending the thumbs out forwards, keeping the head back on top of the shoulders. There's always this temptation when you're sending forwards to send the head with it. Keep the head back. Rotating in the shoulder joints again, so the palms are facing the floor, a little bit away from you. Keep the pelvic floor gently lifted up if you can, as you breathe out and push down, and push the top of the head up. And as the hands come back down, they want to come back down into Tai Chi. And again, little fingers, ring fingers, middle fingers, forefingers, thumbs. Breathing in as the hands come up. Holding the breath as you rotate the arms and the shoulder joints. And then gently, softly breathing out as you push down in the hands and push the top of the head up. I don't know about you, but it's quite hurting me, that one. Everyone okay? So coming back up a little bit in the legs, relaxing the arms, rounding the shoulders forwards so the arms cross in front of the middle of the body, and then shaking the hands out. And then shaking the feet out again as we did before. So if you sat down, stretching the leg out, one leg at a time. If you're standing up, stand with the feet together, lift one off the floor, move it forwards to foot length, tilt at the heel, elongate the foot and the toes. Stretch out from the bum down the back of the leg, and then give it a shake. Just a gentle shake. Up and down. Put the feet back together again, and then lift the other one off the ground. Move it forwards, tilt at the heel, So you're stretching, elongating the toes, and stretching, elongating the leg from the bum through to the heel, and then give that a shake. If you've got a drink, I recommend you have a sip. So that exercise that we just did, as a standalone exercise, is called the chest Dao Yin. Dao Yin just means exercise. Well, it doesn't just mean that, but just take that it means exercise. The chest Dao Yin, but actually it's a movement in the Tai Chi form that I teach as well. So don't feel like I'm shortchanging you. I am actually showing you some Tai Chi movements. It's just that online, on Zoom, this space is too enclosed to actually get a full form working, but I will be teaching you bits of form that you can practice. And so that's the upper part of the body. Let's do a little bit of the lower part of the body as well, shall we? Yeah. So those of you who've been before will know this one, but you will hopefully know that I'm a great advocate of it. I'm not sure it has a proper name, but I call it Tai Chi walking. And we're just going to do gradually build up a walking exercise, starting off with just a very straightforward or seemingly straightforward walking exercise. So we're just going to start off standing with our feet shoulder width apart. Ideally, you can be standing in Wu Chi, but you don't have to be. Do make sure you've got a good strong structure in the feet. I'm afraid you're going to have to sit this one out, Rosemary.
Okay.
Okay. And then shift the weight across to the right. So into your right foot, so that your right foot has got all of your weight. In fact, Rosemary, if you feel like it, you could give it a go if you want to.
Stand up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so all the weight's in the right side so that you can lift your left foot off the ground. Yeah. So please do, lift the left foot off the ground and then place it forwards, directly forwards. Back down, but with no weight in it. Yeah, all your weight is still in the right foot. And you can test whether or not you have any weight in it, by the way, by lifting it up again. Yeah, so you can lift it up and down. You're standing on one leg. It's just that it's somewhat easier to balance, isn't it, when you've got 2 feet on the ground, even if one of them doesn't have any weight in it. Right. Now what we're going to do is just shift our weight into the left side. So you've got to go forwards and across a little bit. I want you to try and get your weight so that it's over the ball of the foot, so that you've still got this strong structure in the foot. It's not flattening out. So you want to try and keep this strong structure. So, and the weight is over the ball of the foot. But the right foot is desperate to come off the ground now, hopefully, because all your weight's here and it's forwards. Yeah, so the right foot's kind of being dragged along a little bit. Just lift it up off the ground and place it in front of you. Just place it in front of where it was. But again, you're kind of like stroking your carpet if you've got carpet with the foot. You're not putting any weight, you're not committing any weight to that foot. Then commit the weight to the foot once it's down. Get all the weight into the right side so that the left foot wants to come. And the left foot lifts up. If you feel like you're going to fall over, just touch the ground with the tips of your toes and you'll get your balance back. And then place your left foot in front of you and then shift your weight into it. All the time checking in on the neck as well to make sure that you're not leaning forwards in the head, because when you're stepping forwards, you're thinking forwards, so you tend to shift your head there. Now I've got all my weight on the left side, over the ball of the left foot. The right foot wants to come off the ground, so I take it off the ground, place it in front, and then shift the weight into it. So we're breaking down walking into these component parts so that we're not putting the weight in the foot while it's not on the ground. I know there's a lot of knots there, but the weight is only in the foot that is on the ground. normally when we're walking along, we commit our weight to our foot before it's actually made it onto the ground, putting a lot of strain on the foot and also making it a little bit harder to balance actually. Right, so I'm right up to the camera. So when you get to the end of your room, turn around and go back the other way, or go back to the other end of the room and start again, whichever works best for you. I'm going to go back to the other end of the room so you can see me again. So when you have done that, again, you start off in Wu Ji, so your feet are parallel, shoulder width apart. And again, you shift your weight across into the right side. Now, for this exercise on its own, it doesn't have to always be the right side, but I'd like to get into the habit of doing that if you want him to come back, because we're going to build on this with some stuff that we actually do in Tai Chi. At the moment, we're just getting our heads round, or our bodies round, this idea that walking consists of a bunch of component parts, and we can't really mix them together if we want to stay upright. So we're optimizing our balance. People say, oh, Tai Chi is good for your balance. And this is how, by doing this kind of practice, where we're breaking it down and making sure that we're not trying to stand on a foot that isn't on the ground. It's never going to be a good ending if you do that. Carry on. I'm just going to pause for a moment and watch what you're doing. And I apologise, I'm going to have a quick sip of tea as well. Well, Marilyn Beecher has disappeared. I hope you're okay, Marilyn. The other Marilyn, I can see you okay. You look like you're doing very well. And that's the right thing to do, is to keep looking straight ahead. So that's really good. Ah, there you are. So finish the stretch that you're doing and then come back to the start and we'll add something to it for you. What we're going to add is some movement in the pelvis. Do you remember at the start we did this thing where we were turning the pelvis backwards and forwards? Well, we're going to add that to our stepping, yeah? So what I'd like you to do then is to sink in the legs a bit more so that you can do that. And then try it. As you shift your weight across into the right foot, turn the pelvis so that the right hip is closing. Yeah, so the right hip is going backwards, if you like. So turn the pelvis and open the left hip. And then once all our weight is in the right foot, our right hip is fully closed. It's not going to go any further. Then step forwards with the left foot. Now, as we shift our weight across into the left foot, across and forwards into the left foot, we turn the pelvis back in the other direction so that the left hip is closed when our weight is over our left foot. And the right foot's ready to come off the ground and step forwards. And then we turn the pelvis back the other way. And rinse and repeat, so to speak, ad infinitum. So we're doing exactly the same thing as we did before. It's just that we've got this turn of the pelvis happening at the same time. You can use your navel as a measure. You know, the navel is turning towards the side that the foot is on. That doesn't make sense, does it?
For balance,
There's a better way of explaining that. Hello, Andrew.
sorry, for balance purposes, I find I'm pointing my toes slightly outwards. Is that right, or do I need to keep them pointing forwards?
If you find that you're having to do that to help you balance, then that's fine. But know that the aim is to actually have the feet pointing forwards.
Keep them pointing forwards, okay.
Yeah. But if you find that you can't keep your balance, then obviously make the adjustments accordingly. I don't want anyone falling over. I think actually essentially what's happening for you is if you're turning the feet out, it's because you're trying to turn the pelvis more than it will go. See if you can put all of your concentration into your legs and your feet. From the hips as well. So pelvis, hips, knees, feet. All your concentration there. And then when you've done that, there's somebody waiting to come in. I wonder how long they've been waiting for. Carry on, folks. I'm just going to admit this other person, but hello, Michael. I didn't see you there waiting. I don't know how long you've been waiting for. So step, turn, step, turn. After a while, once you've got used to this, it can become quite a smooth movement. Smooth movement. But to begin with, it makes sense to sort of break it down so that you're a bit like Kraftwerk, a bit robotic, just doing one thing at a time. Step, shift and turn, apart from the movement of the pelvis along with the weight, shift and turn. Everybody okay? Okay, so we're going to add something else to this, and this is the hands. This is where, Rosemary, you can do something.
Okay.
So if you want to, you can carry on walking a little bit while I show Rosemary what to do. Basically, you know, at the start when we were doing this thing with the pelvis and I was getting you to do this, I'd like you to carry on doing that, if you will. But see if you can also include your hands. I'm going to show you and come up close. So that you're kind of like, it's like you've got a cloth in hand and you're wiping a table. So the hand is following the pelvis. It's coming outwards and forwards, outwards and forwards. And when the hip's closing, it's going in and back. So if I just do it on one side. So your hands will be moving in opposite directions, opposite circles. If you're standing up, let's just pause on the footwork to begin with and just get the hands in there. So I'd like you to sink a little bit deeper in the legs if you can. If your legs start shaking, you're sinking too deep and you just need to come out a little bit. And then we have our hands like this again, like we were doing before. So we've got these spiral stretches down the arms through to the tips of the fingers. And then we're going to turn the pelvis and wipe the table with a cloth. So the hand comes out and forwards as the hip opens. And then as the hip starts to close, the hand comes in and backwards. So it's almost like the hand has some kind of flexible attachment to your hip joint. And you can do this really slow, or you can do it really fast, or somewhere in between. You can do it really small, or you can do it really big. Have a little play with it. See if you can make your hands, keep going folks, see if you can make your hands flat. So rather than doing this, see if you can just get the fingers out straight. And we're not doing that, there's nothing vigorous about it, it's just a gentle elongation. And we're trying to make this part of the hand push outwards a little bit, push outwards. That's better, much nicer. And also see if you can relax the wrists a little bit. Yeah, so the wrists aren't doing that. The wrists aren't doing this. It's just like the hand is in line with the forearm almost. But actually, because it's down here, there is a little bit of opening going on, but it's that way, not that way. Too much detail, I suppose, but you'll find it amplifies the benefit considerably. Good. I think we've all got that. It's looking good. Andrew, I'm guessing your hands are causing you a bit of bother. Don't worry, just leave them be and, you know, go with the flow. So, because what we're going to do now, folks, is we're going to join up the dots. Rosemary, you can have a rest if you want to, and then when you feel ready, you can carry on doing that exercise. For the rest of us, we're going to do that exercise, that thing, with the stepping, okay? So we start off here. Allow me to show you, if you like. And then, as you open the left hip, as you shift the weight across into the right foot, you're sending the left hand out and forwards. And then once all your weight's there in the right side, you step. So we're going to be a little bit robotic about it again. No smooth movement yet. And then as you're shifting the weight forwards and across into the left side and turn the pelvis, the left hand's coming back and in. Meanwhile, the right hand is going out and forwards until you're fully in your left side. Then you step forwards with the right foot and then go back the other way. Again, to start off with, I recommend you be a bit robotic about it and break it down into component parts. Otherwise, you like to get a little bit lost. If you lose your place, just pause for a moment and then start again. Okay, so there's one more bit to this. There's one more part. And that is, so far what we've been doing is stepping forwards, then stepping forwards, then stepping forwards, along with everything else, yeah? What I'd like you to try, and it doesn't matter if you succeed or fail, is step forwards with the left foot, yeah? And then when you step forwards with the right, you want to bring the right foot so that it's alongside, so that it's in, I'll just step back here, so that it's there rather than forwards, yeah? So it's alongside the left foot, but obviously not together. You've still got this gap. Does that make sense? Yes, no? It's not easy. Not without looking down all the time. I don't need to do that. I want you to look straight ahead. So just try. It doesn't matter if you succeed or fail because we've already been doing it the other way anyway. Yeah, so let me show you what I mean. You may not be able to see it actually, but let me just try. So this is all the same. I step forwards with the left side, and then I bring my weight forwards into the left side, and then I step alongside it with the left foot. So it's half a step with the right foot. And then I step a full step forwards with the left, bring the weight forwards and step alongside with the right. Half a step. So it's a full step with the left, a half step with the right. Try it, see how you go. Remember, it doesn't matter how you get on. It's the trying that matters. Great. As soon as you've done at least 2 lengths of your room, come back to with a starting point. Stand in Wu Chi. Round the shoulders forward so the arms cross in front of the middle of the body and shake the hands out. And smile. And then shaking the feet out again. Yeah. Hopefully you can remember how to do that. Make sure you shake out each foot equally, but obviously not at the same time. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do this. I just want to show you the meaning of what you've been doing, really, so that you can see where I'm going with it. When we start the Tai Chi form is just like a drill of movements. We start in Wu Chi, and then we sink down, and we step out, just like we've been doing, and then alongside, so that we come back into this stance, which I didn't tell you before, actually. It's called Tai Chi. Tai Chi. And then we do the chest down in, which is what we did earlier. And there you are. You have the start of the form. The other thing I should say to you is that you'll only find that particular piece in the form that I teach. So it's not just me, but other people that teach the form that I teach as well, or teach that. It's called earthquake, and it's the hardest part of the Tai Chi form. And I think most people don't teach it, or at least it didn't come to the West originally, because it is the hardest part. And the last thing you want to be doing is the hardest part first. However, I believe it's the most therapeutic part, which is the reason why I'm teaching you guys it. For a variety of reasons I don't have time to go into now. Ask me at some point. We're going to finish off with just a simple exercise that's really good for finishing things off. Maybe just before bed as well. Okay, you can do this sat down or standing up. The standing up, we start off in Wu Chi. So again, remember, nice structure in the feet, the weight centered on the balls of the feet, the ankles and knees and hips are soft, so that the pelvis is sinking down a little bit. Because the pelvis is sinking down, you've got a force that you can oppose with the top of the head, so you can stretch open the spine. The hips are back a little bit so that you have to lean forwards from them to keep the weight in the balls of the feet. The arms are just relaxed. But then we're going to make the arms unrelaxed. We're going to elongate them a little bit. So it's not a vigorous stretch, it's just a gentle opening. From the shoulders right the way through to the tips of the fingers. And then we rotate the arms and the shoulder joints so that the palms of the hands are facing forwards. And then we imagine that somebody is moving our hands sideways. And we go with it, but we keep the shoulders soft. Because the hands are going sideways, they've got to go up. They can't go anywhere else. Once we get to about shoulder height, rotate the arms so the palms of the hands are facing the ceiling and carry on going up a little way and then bend the elbows Try and send the elbows out sideways as you send the fingers in and make this kind of apex shape just above the head and in front of the head. And then gently sending down through the palms of the hands. At the same time, sending the top of the head up. So again, it's this opposing forces thing that we did before. And if you want to, what's the word I was looking for? If you want to get your breathing in time with it, then this downward stroke here is an out breath. So it needs to be a long, slow out breath. And then the upwards thing is an in breath. And then we hold our breath inhaled here as we're going to the apex. Keep the pelvic floor gently lifted up as you breathe down and out. But we're not down and out, are we? So then when you fully exhale, it's just a quick holding the breath and then breathing in. Now, if this is too slow for your breathing, then there's two things you could do to compensate. You can move faster so that you keep your movements up with your breath, or you can cheat with the breathing. So let's say I'm breathing in, and I can't breathe in anymore when I get to here. Well, I just breathe out quickly and breathe in again, slowly. So you just, we call it stealing a breath. So at any point, if you run out of breath or you've got too much breath, you can just quickly change and carry on. We'll do one more. We always finish this exercise on the way down. And as with all of the other exercises, it's really good to have a quick shake out afterwards. Yeah, so just bringing the hands down, pushing down to ground very gently, and then shake the hands out. And a quick shake of the feet as well. And I'm just going to pop over onto my other camera so we can have a little chat if you want. I'll just get my mouse pointer in the right place.
Thank you so much, Mark.
You're very welcome.
I was, when we started, my tremor was just completely out of control.
Oh dear.
And now it's completely not there.
Good.
So that was amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Really helpful.
Really helpful.
The shaking of the leg.
That's quite a long delay, isn't it? Marilyn, who has no surname. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in London.
Me?
I'm in London.
Oh.
So Marilyn Beecham, you're in London. And Marilyn. Where are you?
I'm in Suffolk.
Suffolk. Oh, okay.
Yes.
We've got quite a good distribution across the country. So we've got London, Solihull, Worcester, Burley, Desfield, is that right? And Marilyn's in London as well. Marilyn.
Who else is in London?
I am.
Okay, where is he?
So
We've got somebody from South Florida.
Martin's from Purley. But we're progressively going north from where everything is. Marilyn, if you don't mind, I'm going to quite a strong echo coming. Let me just. There we go. Sorry about that. It's just that we've got a massive echo, and it's. Marilyn, if you want to say something, let me know, and I'll unmute you. So, from me, if you liked what you did and you think that there's potential for it, then it's a really good idea to practice. If you can remember anything that I show you. Probably the best thing to practice is the footwork. So just that first bit of walking that we did, where you're putting the weight into a foot and therefore releasing all the weight out of the other foot, and then not moving the other foot until all the weight's out of it and stepping forwards, and so on, just breaking it down into those parts. Who have we lost? Have we lost somebody?
There's Michael sitting at the bottom.
Ah, right. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask?
I think so.
Just stunned silence.
No, thank you so much. I have to leave now. So thank you, Mark, and thank you for your kindness.
You're very welcome, Rosemary.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Boxing at 4 o'clock, anybody?
Boxing at 4 o'clock, yeah.
It's not the high intensity one this time, is it?
No, it's supposed not to be. Yes.
As hard as you make it.
And then tomorrow there's exercise to music.
Yeah, that doesn't fit well with my agenda, so I don't tend to do much on a Friday.
Do you have a target, Andrew, when you're doing the boxing?
Not to break myself is my target. I tore my tricep, so I was somewhat overzealous.
Yeah.
Christmas.
I think part of the problem is you're not actually hitting anything, are you? It's just free space. So
It can be worse. It's like you can often pull a hamstring when you're playing football if you miss the ball.
Yeah.
So my target though is a 100-mile bike ride in April.
Oh,
great.
I'm doing that to raise money for the GDNF trial. So that's a bit of a challenge, as I found out when I went out and did just about 10 miles the other day.
I always find that, when you're doing a circuit, when you're as far away as you possibly can be from home, that's when it feels the worst, because you know that you've got to do the same thing again in reverse. Yeah, it's good though, cycling. I like it.
Yeah, I love it. I used to really love it. I did a stage of the Tour de France 2002.
Oh, really?
That was quite something.
How did you do?
We did it on the on the Sunday, and it took me 9 hours and 15 minutes. I was the 7,500th finisher out of 8,500 that finished. Just under 10,000 started. And the professionals went through on the following Thursday, admittedly with much better weather conditions. But the winning professional did a few seconds under 4 hours. It had taken me 9 hours 15. And of course, I hadn't done multiple stages in the days leading up to that either.
But at least you didn't come in last.
I didn't come in last, and I beat the broom wagon. That's all that mattered to me.
Good. Right, well, I think I'm going to have to get off as well. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to say or ask before I disappear?
No, just to thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
See you all soon.
See you
Bye.
next week. Bye.
Bye.